Hello, everyone. I'm Traci Arieli, end-of-life doula and founder of Comforting Closure. Welcome to another episode. When someone we love is nearing the end of life, we often feel the urge to do something, to ease their pain, to bring them comfort, to simply be present. But many caregivers and family members don't realize that one of the most powerful forms of comfort is something we already carry with us: our hands. Today's guest, Cindy Spence, is a massage therapist at the Boone Pickens Hospice Center. She's devoted her work to the practice of palliative touch, using gentle, intentional massage and positioning to offer dignity, ease, and connection to people at the end of life. She also co-authored a book with Susan Gee called Palliative Touch: Massage for People at the End of Life. It is a compassionate guide for caregivers on how to use gentle massage to bring comfort to their loved ones. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to recognize signs of discomfort when words are no longer possible, simple ways to bring physical comfort through touch and positioning, and the emotional strength it takes to be fully present at the bedside. Whether you're a doula, a caregiver, or someone sitting beside a loved one, this conversation offers practical guidance and gentle encouragement. So grab a warm drink, find a comfortable seat, and join us for the conversation. Cindy, good morning, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Traci. It's my honor.
Can you start off and share with us a little bit about your journey, what brought you to this work, and why palliative touch became so meaningful to you?
Sure, yeah. So in 1998, my father-in-law was dying of cancer, and the only thing that seemed to give him any pleasure at all was the thought of a massage therapist coming to his hospital room to visit him. And I, wanting to be helpful, offered to be the one to call around and find a therapist for him. And I called a lot of therapists, but every phone call, the answer was no. No, that's not the kind of massage I do. No, he's too sick. Just no. And I found that response to be heartbreaking and frankly just mystifying. I just didn't understand why someone at the end of life should need to be deprived of touch. And so I did the only thing I could think of, which was to go to massage school.
Now, I know your book, Palliative Touch: Massage for People at the End of Life, it's really a thoughtful guide. It's well done. Thank you. What were you hoping to offer others, especially caregivers, when you wrote it?
I think that I wrote the book that I wished I had had 25 years ago when I embarked on this journey. You know, there weren't many materials out there. At the time, we even thought that massage might be contraindicated for people with cancer. That myth has since been debunked. But there just wasn't a lot of guidance for people who wanted to do what I wanted to do. And I was so blessed in the beginning by people who trusted me and who taught me. These were people who were receiving the touch that I had to offer, gently guiding me. I learned from caregivers, had to make a few mistakes. But I think what I was hoping with the book was just to reduce fear and increase connection.
For people who aren't familiar, how is comfort touch or palliative massage different from traditional massage therapy?
So I think one thing is that we rarely use a massage table, and people are not typically positioned in a prone or face down position. We work on people wherever they are found, wherever they are most comfortable. That might be a favorite well-worn recliner. It might be their regular bed. It might be a hospital bed. We say that the session needs to be shorter, slower, softer. So the dosing of the session is not going to be an hour, which is typical in the massage industry. The session might be half an hour. The session might be 20 minutes. It's all based on the energy of the recipient. The softer component means that our massage pressure is typically very gentle. It might just be a hold. It might be enough pressure to spread lotion across the skin. It might be enough pressure to actually rub the lotion into the skin. So pressure is another major way that we adjust this work. And then finally, the slower component, everything about medical trauma, I think, has an element of speed in it. And that speed is very activating to the nervous system. So we try to slow down everything we do, from the way that we enter the room, the way that we move around the bed, our speech, and the speed of our strokes. In a massage, generally you might remove all of your clothing so that you receive lotion to all of the body. We may not have access to that much skin. And so we do try to apply a quality emollient cream to accessible skin, but a lot of the work that we do is over clothing. And it also may not be that symmetrical experience that you're accustomed to. Your massage therapist may work on one leg, and then they'll work on the other leg, and then one arm and the other arm. And we may be adapting massage for a person who can't have all of their body parts touched, or a person who's in a piece of furniture that's pushed against the wall on two sides. So there is a sense of a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it's not necessarily a symmetrical experience.
I know that when I have done palliative touch, massage, it's usually with people who have said, oh, my legs are killing me because they're in bed all day. I mean, they're not moving around. Also, if the skin's really dry, which tends to happen, using that moisturizer, sometimes it's just the hands. And that's it. And it's just, as you said, very soft. The touch is really, really soft, more of like a rub versus a massage. And it is so helpful. It is so soothing for the person. The person feels so cared for. Because when you're in hospice or you're in skilled nursing or in a hospital, a person doesn't get that sense of touch. You've people coming in to give you shots, to wake you up, to make sure, you're okay, that you're, or to feed you, but there is not that touch, that comfort touch, that connection.
I think you're so right. I tell people you probably haven't had anything that felt good in your body in a long time. Many of them can relate to that.
And many people are afraid that they're going to do it wrong when it comes to touch at the end of life. What would you say to someone who wants to offer some of this physical comfort, but feels really nervous and unsure?
I think I would urge a person like that to start very slowly, very simply, holding a hand. Holds can be extremely powerful. I try to hold a hand from underneath. There's a way that our thumbs kind of link together perfectly, and a person's palm can rest in our palm rather than holding on top, which can have a sense of confinement. So I'd start slowly. I'd start gently. I'd start with a hold, and then perhaps you graduate to some lotion on the hands as you suggested. Then maybe you get brave and you move up an arm into a shoulder, maybe even the neck. So I think to start slowly and then see the beauty, the response, to your work, that can be so encouraging. And then it becomes like a dance.
Are there other simple ways that caregivers can use the massage, the gentle touch, to help?
I think we can use our hands to provide all kinds of sensory experiences. I know people who've been confined to bed can sometimes just enjoy a warm, damp washcloth, just used to to gently wash, to bathe the face. Some people love having their scalps stimulated. Brushing someone's hair very gently, can be a way to use the hands. So I think that we can incorporate our hands into daily caregiving, but when we slow down and we really take our time, then it becomes not medical care, but human connection.
Nice. Thank you. Let's talk bed positioning. Why is bed positioning for someone who is in hospice so crucial? And why is it so overlooked? It is the most overlooked part of comfort care that I have seen.
Well, I'd really love to know what you think about that. I think that's a fascinating question, but let me speak to the first part of the question first, why it's so important. I think one reason it's so important is that as people decline, they spend so much more time sitting or lying in bed. So it's the sheer number of cumulative hours in one position. And at the same time, the body may be losing fat, maybe losing adipose tissue. And so there's just not that natural padding that the body tends to have when we're not sick. Yeah, so getting back to your question about why it's so overlooked, I wonder if part of it is just habit. We're accustomed to being in bed with one pillow, and so we just keep getting into bed with one pillow behind the head. And I wonder if there is some resistance to the reality of a shifting scenario, and maybe there's some um, denial, that things are changing and that what we were doing before maybe isn't enough. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that there is a lack of knowledge about how to do it. When you get into hospice, when you're in a situation, a scenario that is high stress like this, it takes more than just going over something once to really remember it. So I think that hospice does a great job in educating, but they're not there 24 hours a day. And so it's really difficult to know what to do if this isn't something you're around. But also, it takes being present to look at your loved one, to know that they're uncomfortable, which we should talk about next. But it takes a level of presence that most people do not have. I mean, in our world today, our TikTok world today, where less than a minute attention span's not going to do it when you're working with in hospice and with a loved one. So. Yeah, I think a lot of it is the how uncomfortable it is for people to be present.
Slow down to notice.
Yeah. So noticing. Let's talk about noticing when a person, especially at the end of life, there will be times when your loved one, is not able to speak, communicate verbally. What are some of the signs that we should look for to recognize discomfort in someone that can't communicate verbally?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think first of all, just because someone is unable to use words doesn't mean that they're nonverbal. So you may hear sounds that indicate discomfort. It may be a moan, it may be a groan. So I think listening for the sounds that aren't words is important. Nonverbal signs for me often show up in the face. And so we're looking for the brow to be nice and relaxed. We're looking for there to be an absence of a brow furrow or a grimace. So it often shows up in the face. And then the body, is the body at rest? Is the person fidgeting as if they're trying to get comfortable and they're not quite comfortable yet? And then finally, I think respiratory rate, we can look at vital signs. normal respiration is anywhere between 12 to 20 breaths per minute. And so if you have someone who is breathing more like 25 or 30 times per minute, that can be an indication of pain.
And what are some of your go-to tips or tools, pillows, rolled towels, that type of thing, for helping someone feel better positioned?
I learned a lot about this from the field of restorative yoga. If you've ever taken a restorative yoga class, you know that the principle is to have every body part supported by a bolster, by a prop. And so that's what I'm looking for when I arrive at the bedside. Where is there empty space? Where is there empty space between the surface of the person's body and the bed or the chair below? And how can I fill that space in? What kind of pillow or towel can be fashioned that's a perfect fit for the space between the person's body and the space below? Because if you give every body part something to rest on, I think we are whispering to the nervous system that it's safe. We've got you. You're supported. You can really relax. You can surrender.
Yeah, I know that positioning, going back to yoga and restorative yoga, that makes complete sense. I know that when I do restorative yoga at home, even lying down, my shoulders aren't in the right place, but if I position them correctly, which would take on a bed, would take support under my arms, then my back feels so much better. So that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
For those who are supporting people or their loved ones at home, are there any common mistakes that you see in positioning that you wish people knew to avoid?
I think probably the place where things need to start is with the alignment of the hips. So often I see that the hips, the bend in the hips does not align with the bend of the furniture. And often when a person is in a hospital bed, they slip
Yes.
constantly toward the foot of the bed, and you have to keep pulling them up because the bend of those hips really needs to be at the bend of that bed. If the bend of the hips is anywhere else, then the bend of that bed may come in the middle of the thoracic spine or someplace where it's just not going to be very comfortable. So starting with the alignment of the hips, and then what's happening with the neck? Does the person have a television that's off in one corner, so they're having to turn their head to see that television? Is a visitor chair placed at the side of the bed, so they're having to turn their head to maintain eye contact with the visitor? So getting back to your point about paying attention, just watching the person and watching how they're living, what experiences are they having right now in their chair, in their recliner, in their bed, and how is their body having to maybe work harder than it needs to engage in those activities.
That's really fascinating. Now I'm thinking about all the skilled nursing facilities and hospitals I've been in, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, that TV is way off in the corner in every single hospital and skilled nursing facility I've been in. And when I go, it's amazing because the hips, a lot of times people do slide down. And this isn't even something that hospitals, I'm not going to say they don't pay attention to, but they don't. They're so busy. I could understand, but it's really interesting to think back to all the places I've been and what's actually being done and what's not.
Yeah, and I think once you do engage in some of this education, you will start noticing. I mean, I hope after this conversation that as you go back to these places, you'll notice these small things that are very simple. You
Yeah.
know, anyone can notice them and do something to make it better. Hospital beds all have wheels. We can turn the bed to face whatever activity the person's engaged in. Where I work, all of the hospital beds are able to be moved out onto the patio. We have
Nice.
a body of water that patients can enjoy. And so I love it when I come into a room and the family has reoriented the bed to face that patio.
That sounds wonderful. In your work, have you noticed differences in how various cultures approach touch or palliative care?
Sure. I think that there are certainly some cultures where um, touch between strangers is more taboo, where touch between an opposite member of gender is perhaps more restricted. But I also think that it's really important not to make any assumptions because there are so many varieties of human experience that impact how we receive touch that are beyond culture. There's a family culture, there are personal preferences, there is a history of touch. Has touch been safe? Has it not been safe? And so I think it's just really important not to make a lot of assumptions and to allow the person that we're about to touch to educate us about what they prefer, what they desire. And one thing I've noticed is if you ask someone, is this okay? Invariably, they're going to say it's fine. And so I've really worked to develop more neutral language. Like, do you prefer this or do you prefer that? Or even more neutral might be to say, some people really like this and other people like that. Which kind of person are you? And we can do that from everything to the positioning that we provide, placing a pillow, placing a rolled towel, and saying, did you prefer your position before I place this towel or pillow? Better before, better after, better, the same, worse. So I think keeping our language very neutral is important, regardless of the culture of the person that we're working with. That's where we'll learn the most.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions about massage or touch in hospice and palliative care?
Well, I think that the word massage is problematic. First of all, I think when you use the word massage in a palliative care setting, there are all kinds of assumptions, positive or negative, based on a person's experience. And so when I go into a room, I'm wearing my name tag that says Cindy Spence, massage therapist. I introduce myself as the massage therapist. So there are no smoke and mirrors or attempt to, pretend that I'm providing anything but massage. But I don't use that word when I introduce the service. Typically, what I will say is, I'm here to see if I might put some warm lotion on your dad's skin. Or how do you think it would feel to your mom to have some warm lotion on her skin? Because I think that that's more descriptive of what I'm offering. And I think that it helps not to muddy the waters about what it is that I'm offering. We offer a massage therapy assessment to 100% of our inpatients. And so I'm making cold calls. I'm going into each room to introduce myself and offer what I offer. And this means that for the 8 years that I've been employed at T-Boone, I've gotten to collect statistics on how many people I offer massage to and how many turn me down. And it used to be that when I offered massage therapy, the refusal rate was 7 to 8%. And now that I'm using this new language, light lotioning, the refusal rate has gone down to about 3%. So I think language is very important. And I think that the misconceptions start with the use of the word massage. I think another common misconception is that it's too late for massage to be beneficial. In my experience, massage can be beneficial right up until the last moment. In fact, I have been present and providing massage when someone chose that moment to make their exit. So there is a lot of education involved, not only for patients and family members, but also staff. We have new nurses constantly being oriented at the unit. And it is a process of gentle education and sometimes for them to observe the work and see what it looks like.
Now, with what you do, you have to be very, very present. How is the emotional weight of that? What do you do to take and comfort yourself emotionally and take care of yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really starts with a sincere dedication to noticing and soothing our own nervous systems. It's a daily practice. You know, we get triggered in our world on a daily basis. And so that can look like different things for different people. For me personally, I need a lot of quiet time. I need downtime. That can be hard, you know, when things get busy because I also like to say yes to things. But I've just learned that I'm a person who needs some stillness and quiet. I uh, have my nervous system fed when I'm at the ocean, and so I make sure that I make trips to be in front of a body of water that reminds me that I'm very small and the world is very large. Um, I also need a lot of play. I need a sense of playfulness and silliness. I tend to have friends who have a very good sense of humor. I do a lot of laughing. I play pickleball, which is perhaps the most silly sport ever on the planet. So I think that there is this ongoing call in this work for us to remain very vigilant about how we ourselves are feeling and how to soothe ourselves. Now, once we're at the bedside, I think that the most powerful tool is the breath. And I think to focus on our inhalation, our exhalation, just to notice that we are breathing, and to perhaps play with what happens when we lengthen the inhalation. And then, even more importantly, what happens when we lengthen the exhalation. And then, what about that gap in between? What about that gap in between the in breath and the out breath? Like, can we sink more deeply into the stillness and the silence that is in that gap? And then once we do that, what is happening with the breath of the person that we're touching? Because that breathing will change as well. And then there's this very interesting phenomenon of some syncing that can go on between the breath of the giver and the breath of the receiver. So I think the breath is a very powerful tool, and sometimes we forget to pay attention to it.
Yeah, a lot of, I think of what you and we both do. We sit with the discomfort of the person. I mean, we sit and we listen. We sit, and especially when there's so much grief. And we come from a world where we want to fix things instead of letting people be and express their emotions and letting there be silence. You know, there'll be times when I'm sitting with a person and it's just silent for a very uncomfortable amount of time, I have to say. And I am constantly following my breath, following the person's breath. And it is really helpful just to do that and to be. And I second your opinion of playing and after being confronted by death all the time is a wonderful way to get your priorities right, to really understand what you need, like what I need in life and what makes me happy. Because it's a realization we're only here for a very limited amount of time.
Yeah, it's that Joseph Campbell's call to live a joyful life in a sorrow-filled world.
Yeah.
But I think what you said about fixing is so important, and that's worth going back to because I find that I relax more deeply at the bedside when I remind myself that I am not there to fix anything. The person I'm touching is not broken. There's nothing to fix.
Yep.
Our only job is just to stay in our seat.
Yep. If someone is listening to this right now and they're sitting beside a loved one, what is the one small thing that they can do to bring comfort? Where would you start?
Well, we've talked so much about hands, lots of nerve endings in the hands. Um, so hold your person's hand. I think that's where I would start. Another place where I love placing still hands is over the heart of the person. A gentle caress, on the forehead, kind of just being touched the way that we touch our infants, when they're first born, that holding, that swaddling. Um, yeah, there's just really no way to do it wrong. Humans have been touching humans this way since the beginning of time.
Why do you think people are so hesitant? I mean, not only when people are sick and dying, but people are hesitant to, when they see someone upset, to come up and give them a hug or to hold a hand. Why do you think that is?
Don't know. It's a good question. I think some of it is worry that we don't have permission. We always start every massage with consent. And as you've pointed out, people may not have words to say yes or no when we ask them if they would like to be touched. And so I think learning to look for an implied permission, starting slow and then seeing what happens. Start with holding a hand that's very non-threatening, and then see what happens. Does the breathing of the recipient slow down, or does it speed up? Do they curl their fingers around your hand, or is there some withdrawal? Is there, do their eyes remain vigilant and watchful, watching you as you walk around the bed, or do they close their eyes? Um, as I said previously, this is like a dance, and I think we have to start small, and then we have to look for consent to keep touching. And I think that idea of consent and is it okay is one that can be a stumbling block.
Even before you started your career as a massage therapist and in this realm, were you always a very, I hate to say touchy feely person, but like me, I'm a hugger. Even my clients, I come in, I give them a hug if it's appropriate. And yeah, I'm a hugger. That's who I am. Even coworkers, I'm a hugger. In tech, you know. So were you always touchy feely or?
I don't know that I was. My family of origin, we said I love you and we gave hugs, but it wasn't, with my children growing up, there were these pile-ons where we'd just be on the sofa reading and everyone's arms and legs would be entwined, or we
Nice.
had kids who would climb onto our laps in public in a restaurant, and feel completely unembarrassed about that. So that was not my early experience, but I will tell you that we were Peace Corps volunteers, my spouse and I, very early in our lives. We were 21 and 23 when we went to Guatemala. And of course, that's a culture where there's a lot of touch and people sit very closely, and you're piled on a bus and you may have someone else's child on your lap or someone else's chicken on your lap, but you're definitely going to be shoulder to shoulder. And about 2 years ago, a video surfaced of me. I didn't even remember the making of this video, but our group of Peace Corps volunteer cohorts had gone to visit an orphanage in Guatemala City. And there was video footage of me at the bedside of a young child, an infant in a baby bed, leaned over the side of the bed. I had one finger inside his hand. He was grasping my finger, And with the other hand, I was gently stroking this child's forehead.
Interesting. How
This was
amazing.
long before massage was on my radar at all. And yet I was moved to tears when I saw this because I realized that this really has been a part of me. This has been inside of me for a very, very long time, long before I was aware.
Yeah, amazing.
So, yeah, I think some of it is just calling us to be who we are as humans. I think we are wired, I think, for connection.
I would agree. Your book is such a wonderful resource. I know that you also offer classes. Can you tell us more about the classes and what people can expect as they go through them?
Sure. So we offer a 20-hour CE class. It is over a 3-day period, and it is open to all healthcare workers. So we have a lot of massage therapists who come to class, but end-of-life doulas are welcome. We have Reiki practitioners and other energy workers. We have occupational therapists, physical therapists. And I love that interdisciplinary kind of community because all of those fields, bring unique perspectives. We have so much to learn from each other. We offer CEs for most of these professions, and we are what we call NCB TMB certified. So anywhere in the country, any massage therapist anywhere in the country should get credit for this class. It is a combination of sharing some information that is shared, but also a lot of hands-on work. Partners are paired up, and the weekend is set up to mirror the dying process. And so the first day on arrival, things are busy. There's lots of information. There's lots of movement. It can feel overwhelming. And then that second day, we kind of settle into early and late decline. Things are starting to slow down a little bit, getting much more into the practical aspects of this care. And then that last day, when we cover active dying, you could hear a pin drop. It just, things get very slow and very beautiful. And everything about the experience is set up that way. The way that the music is mindfully chosen for the hands-on sessions, the readings that we do guided meditations throughout. So big focus is on self-care as well. It's just a beautiful experience.
It sounds it. Are your classes mostly for people who are in the community, the death care community that are taking care of people? Do people who aren't in that community or just have a loved one, do you have anything open to them?
I think originally we had hoped to have classes for folks like that, and our experience is that those folks are just so overwhelmed with their caretaking duties that we didn't get a lot of response. But two things we do offer. One is that anytime I'm at the bedside and I notice a family member hovering, I always invite that person to come and help me. You're sitting right there. Would you like to put lotion on your mom's hand while I do this hand? And so I do invite folks to kind of mirror what I'm doing and to participate. And I love it when I show up a day later with lotion and the family is already there, touching their person, using the lotion that I left the day prior. But we also offer an online course. It's a 3-hour class at our website, www.finaltouchtraining.com. And that class, that 3-hour online video, is geared for family members and for private caregivers.
Thank you. Cindy, thank you so much for being on the program today and sharing all of your knowledge. For those who want to learn more about your work and connect, where is the best place for them to reach out to you? I know you just mentioned your website.
Yeah, the website, finaltouchtraining.com. My email address is on there. I love hearing from people. I love questions. I'm very good. I answer all emails that I receive, maybe not right away, but This work is my passion. It's my life. And I'm always happy to encourage anyone in any way that I can. So, yes, please reach out.
Thank
Really,
you.
really appreciated the chance to get to visit with you today.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Listeners, offering comfort at the end of life doesn't require special training. It starts with a willingness to show up and notice what your loved one is experiencing. Whether it's a repositioned pillow or a steady hand on someone's shoulder, these small acts can make a profound difference. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please comment below or reach out to me directly. And if you found this conversation to be helpful, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is Traci Arieli from Comforting Closure, wishing you peace and comfort in your journey. Until next time, take care.